Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's 14 Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. And don't forget to check out the playlist of previous episodes, linked in the description and pinned comment. Thanks, pal. Hey everybody, it's your buddy Greg. How you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Hope your life is going well. Hope you're able to follow all of your dreams. Hope you and the people you love are healthy and happy. We probably got a few weeks in a row of short vlogs coming up, or shorter vlogs than the previous few weeks. We've had a few weeks in a row where we've had pretty decent sized vlogs, like 40-minute vlogs, which are on the larger side of vlogs I do for the channel. And I think part of it is just I've been really excited and having so much fun playing Stormblood and have just, been having a blast playing through it. But there is big news outside of the 14 vlogs and that I'm finally getting my first home as a homeowner, not as a renter. And so I'm moving at the end of the month, but there's just, so much stuff that goes into purchasing your first home and moving and all that stuff. And just basically just like you just have less time to do fun things like playing Final Fantasy XIV because you got to do all the adult stuff of packing up stuff in boxes and signing documents and all that other stuff that's just, time-consuming, stressful, but, it leads to a good outcome. In order to make sure that I still am able to get the vlogs done every week, I'm just going to play less 14 to make sure that I have time to edit the vlogs and such in the mornings to make sure they still come out every week, because I do really love doing these vlogs and discussing Final Fantasy XIV with everybody. It just means I'll be playing less 14 in the interim while I'm still making sure the vlogs come out every week. So I think I got about 3 hours, less than 3 hours worth of playtime this week, not counting my playdate with Summoner Jobin. So grand total of that, about 5 hours of playing Final Fantasy XIV this week. The first thing I did in Final Fantasy XIV this week was I went to the La Nocia Lake because one of the commenters, Scribbler told me that I could dive under the lake with the new diving feature that we unlocked in Stormblood. And so I dived under the lake and got to explore under there, and it was really cool to, see an entirely different side to a Realm Reborn area. I thought that was really awesome. And so I really appreciated Scribbler pointing that out to me in the comments. And they also corrected me on some lore about the Kojin. They told me that the Red Kojin didn't summon Susanoo to protect their treasures from us, but rather the treasures summoned Susanoo of their own volition as thanks for reuniting the Yasakani no Magatama with the other treasures. And so one of the nice things about doing these vlogs instead of a giant video essay is that because I'm doing these every week and they're unscripted, there's less of a pressure to get everything 100% right. And then if I get something wrong, someone can just correct me in the comments, and it's a way for me to better understand everything in 14 and soak it in and really savor the experience. And with people, giving me their expertise and opinions and correcting my facts, it really is helping me understand the game even more than if I just played it by myself. And part of it is sometimes I'm playing this at 6 in the morning and I'm not fully awake. And so a piece of lore might hit me one way when I'm reading it at 6 in the morning, and then someone will be like, hey, no, you got that wrong. So there haven't been too many lore corrections, but there have been a few here and there that have been really helpful. Like Dezun Finn corrected me about some Kojin lore that I mixed up a little bit because I thought the Kojin themselves had their spirit reside in artifacts, but those are the kami that they worship, or they believe reside in the artifacts. So little nuances like that are things that I'm maybe reading wrong or, missing the finer nuances of. And so I'm grateful for people like that. And Riddle Girl on my Discord corrected me a lot. I appreciate everyone helping me understand this game better, because that's, kind of the point of doing these vlogs is this is my first time going through it. And if someone knows more about the game, I want to utilize that knowledge to better understand and appreciate it. And so I appreciate everyone who is, jumping in the comments, telling me what I'm getting wrong. But, not just saying, oh, Greg, Greg's wrong about this, Greg's wrong about that, but also, sharing in the joy of this experience with me. That's really, it's been such a treat. And again, I've never done anything like this with any video game I played, and so it's making this journey all the more special. We've actually had an influx of people join my Discord recently, which is really, really cool, because, then the conversation is continuing outside of just the comment section. I made my Discord server. It's basically just like a place where I wanted like chill and friendly people to hang out. Just because I had been a part of like other Discord servers that had like kind of like toxic communities. I had been in some that were like, pretty cool, but then there'd be like one or two people who kind of like wrecked the vibe. And so I just wanted to make a place that felt a little bit more like home. And so that's why, called it Greg's house. Like, hey, you're coming over to Greg's place, come hang out with Greg, and almost like I'm inviting you over for like a very chill house party. And it's really fun because we're getting like sort of different groupings of people and seeing them like cross over and talk to each other because people are coming to the Discord server for different interests. And there's sort of two main camps. One of the main camps are like the Final Fantasy fans, in particular 14 fans who watch these vlogs. That's sort of been like one major group on the Discord, but recently we've also gotten a bunch of fans of my band, Lipstick. They ended up joining the Discord, and there's sort of been a back and forth between the fans of my band and the Final Fantasy 14 fans, and everyone can sort of like getting to know each other. But what's really great is that the vibes have just been like positive across the board. And that's just what I love so much. Is just like, people are coming there for different things, but they're getting to know each other, becoming friendly. And again, they're sort of becoming this crossover thing where some of the, 14 fans are like, I'm going to check out Greg's music and see what it's all about. And some of the, fans of my music are checking out Final Fantasy games. And so it's really just this great blending of people with different interests, but sort of coming together with these positive vibes. It's just been really nice. I've just been really appreciating the community that's being built. And, this channel was basically just me doing things that interest me. Like, it wasn't meant to be any one thing. It was just like, during the pandemic, I was bored. I'm like, whatever, I'll just make some YouTube videos. And it's become, a channel where like, okay, I've got my, people here who like my music analysis, people here who like my gaming analysis. But I'm glad the Discord server has become a way to sort of unify those different groups in a positive way. If you want to join the Discord server, the link will be in the description and pinned comment. But it's a really chill place. The main rules are just like, don't be a jerk, and keep it PG-13-ish. Swearing is fine, but like try not to do like excessive gore or like nudity or anything like that. Just because some people might be at work, you don't want to get anybody in trouble. Just be classy. But yeah, anyway, so back to what I did in 14 this week. After exploring the lake, I went back to the MSQ to the village of Namai, and basically everybody there recognizes Gosetsu and wants nothing to do with him because they think aiding him will bring Imperial ire, and they're just like, hey, we don't want any trouble. We know you're associated with the rebellion. We are just like barely living in peace here under the Imperial rule. We don't want any trouble. Get out of here. In particular, one boy in orange begs us to leave the village. And so then we make our way to the House of the Fierce, a hideout of the Doman Resistance, and finally reunite with Yugiri after all this time. And while there, my theory about Zenos is somewhat verified. So I thought that Zenos was leaving people alive because he wanted strong opponents, and just was like a shonen anime villain where just like, I just want to fight somebody strong because that's what interests me. And that's kind of what they're doing with his character, but it's more from a sinister perspective of he just enjoys to hunt. And he doesn't enjoy the hunt if they just give up too easily and there's no fight in them. He wants them to struggle and put up a fight and put up an interesting fight before he kills them. So my theory was partially correct in that he wanted it to be more of a challenge and something interesting, but it wasn't for like the pride of the duel. It's more just like a sadistic edge to it. We also find out about Lord Hien, who is heir to the throne of Doma, who we still haven't met, but we keep hearing about him. And apparently he had this talk with Yugiri about whether or not he would lead the resistance. And basically what he told Yugiri was he doesn't want to cause unnecessary conflict. And if the Domans don't have the will to fight, he does not want to pressure them into going into battle for their freedom if they don't have the will to do it. And he said that he would rather sacrifice himself and, give his head to the Empire rather than cause unnecessary bloodshed. And only if his people have the will to fight will he lead them. And so he asked Yugiri to find out where the Domans are at, what the heart of the Doman people is, and what they believe. And so that means it's time to do some filler getting to know people. Now that was kind of a flippant statement, and I do think that, 14 does do this quite a bit, where they're like, hey, it would make more sense to have more urgency in what we're doing, but we're going to pause for a bit to do some necessary world building, like with the Confederacy, where we had to stop and do some quests around Confederacy HQ to make them like us more, but because we do that, it gives us more info about their culture and more context for the player. And that's, kind of a thing that 14 does. It'll be like, hey, you're in this new area, and it would make more sense for us to keep the plot going, but let's slow down and do some quests to get to know the locals, give you context for what's going on. And I think the trick is, it doesn't feel natural, and it feels a little bit predictable in a lot of ways. And so I can see why that part of 14 frustrates people, and a lot of that is in Stormblood. More so than maybe A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. At least that's like the vibe that I feel from Stormblood. But that said, because basically every place you're going to in Stormblood is really cool, I don't care. And I give it a complete pass. Like, I'm still basically loving everything in Stormblood. So this is me acknowledging that, like, hey, I've noticed this thing. I've noticed this thing that probably would bother some people, but, like, it's dope, so I don't care. In the same way where, like, Final Fantasy 15, like, don't get me wrong, like, I recognize the flaws in Final Fantasy 15, but, like, I still think it's dope. So the flaws don't bother me as much because I'm enjoying the dope parts. The reason why I will not be a successful YouTuber is because I'm into positive vibes generally. And so I'm going to be like, yeah, I like this thing and I'm happy and I'm chill. You're not going to get rage bait from me. Like, I'm just a generally happy person. So, like, I mean, I'm honest. Like, if something doesn't vibe with me, I'll let you know. I'm like, I don't like this part as much. But in general, I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 to enjoy it, not to hate on it. And at this point, for, like, the expansion, like, I'm locked into the rhythm and I'm having a good time. So even though I'm recognizing that it feels a bit silly to say, like, hey, go find out the heart of the Doman people, aka go talk to some people and do some side quests. Like, it feels like they were trying to write a justification for stopping to do some individual quests with the locals. Like, I recognize that, but I'm like, you know what, whatever. This game is cool, the story is cool, whatevs, man. But yeah, so we go back to the village and we pretend to be merchants to gather info from the villagers. And I end up doing a bunch of ether current quests because basically as soon as I see them, like, all right, just, get these out of the way. And I'm actually kind of grateful they didn't unlock full quest lines because I knew my playtime this week would be limited and I was wanting to get more MSQ done. So I'm like, okay, whatever, let's just knock out these quests. And then before jumping back into the MSQ, I visited my buddy Sean Darko's house. I'm starting to visit the houses of different people who, watch my vlogs, hanging on my Discord. Visited Radle Girl's houses last week. And this week went to Sean Darko's, which is like a cute little cafe with like a game room in the basement. I appreciate my lovely friends for inviting me into their humble abodes. But yeah, so after visiting Sean Darko's cafe, returned back to the MSQ, and Laito ended up helping a girl named Azami who was attacked by monsters, and helped Azami get some flowers for her parents' grave. We then find out that the boy in orange is her brother Isse, who appreciates us saving his sister and bringing flowers to their parents' grave, and says he knows that we mean well, but asks us to leave again. And explains their really tragic backstory about how the Imperials killed their parents, beat Isse and Azami, and made them disavow their parents publicly. And also they threatened to do things to Azami, and it's just really giving you that hatred for the Imperials and showcasing how the Imperials are using fear as a control tactic, which is just, that is what authoritarians do. They make you fearful that they will hurt you and your loved ones, and that is what they do to make sure that you don't rise and stand up. But what you need to do is sort of like continue to rise up even as it gets frightening, even at the risk of your safety. It's, the people who choose to stand up to authoritarianism as it rises are very, very brave souls, and it's, important to do that in order to keep freedom. There's a lot of horrors going on in the United States lately as the country, barrels towards really frightening authoritarianism, becoming more and more of a police state, asking people, on the street if they have their papers. It's becoming pretty terrifying in the United States. And so the story of Stormblood is really hitting extra hard with me just because of the, the current state of the country in which I live. And it's making me really interested to see where the story lands and how they address the concerns about when to lay your head low and when to make a stand. I wonder if they're going to be more definitive in their thesis statement on it, because there have been a number of times in this expansion where they've decided, hey, it is a better tactic for us to lay low in this situation and not start a fight with the Empire because of X, Y, and Z. But then there have been other times where it's like, okay, now you need to stand and fight against them. So I wonder where this entire saga ends and how the different situations grow and evolve, and what kind of statements they make about how to resist authoritarianism. I think that the story might be a little bit less of big, awesome set pieces and like giant dramatic character moments. And this feels more like a examination of how to resist an authoritarian society. And I think it's done extremely well. And as I go through Stormblood more and more, I'm actually shocked that this expansion isn't as well liked, because I think that what they've been doing story-wise has actually been pretty brilliant, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so after that, I ended up doing some more Ether Current quests. And then a group of Imperials show up at the village and demand that villagers come with them to work in the Empire, quote-unquote, temporarily. And so Leito and Yugiri decide, okay, we're going to rescue these villagers. And so we do a very brief mini-game where basically, like, we're throwing poison darts at different Imperial soldiers to, like, knock them out and make them fall asleep. And I definitely appreciate it. It was very, very simple, but it was a nice change of pace in the gameplay that I appreciate they took the time to do, to just, you know, shake things up so it's not too repetitive. And then we go to the base to rescue the villagers, get some cool new Imperial armor to trick the soldiers as we incapacitate them. But then we get to the villagers to rescue them, and they're still, you know, lacking hope, have basically given up the will to live. They're not wanting to fight the Empire, but they decide, okay, if anyone asks, we'll say that, you know, this random woman tricked us and said it was okay for us to leave. And so they do ultimately accept the rescue, which I was worried they were just going to, like, stick around and, like, be like, nope, we're just going to go and be the Empire slaves, even though you're not all the Imperials here. Also, I was wondering about, like, how they were going to handle the story justification of this, because basically what they said here was Yugiri was going to, like, knock out all the Imperials in the fort and then make everyone, like, too embarrassed and, like, not want to report to their boss that they, like, got knocked out, you know, theoretically, like, got drunk and just, like, you know, had a hangover and forgot what they were doing. And so just no one would want to report to their boss that all the villagers that they were supposed to abduct got away. So Yugiri knocked out everyone in the hopes that no one would want to file that report, I guess. But yeah, so we make our way back to the House of the Fierce. Then we see an airship flying over the area, and we find out it's Zenos coming to check out the situation in Doma. Yugiri really wants to kill him while we have the chance, and she basically argues like, hey, we're not going to be able to defeat him in direct combat, so let's get him while his guard is down and just assassinate this dude. And everyone is telling her it's a bad idea, but I'm thinking to myself, actually, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Dude is really strong, but, like, you know, stab him in the neck while he's not paying attention. Like, that might be a good idea, because otherwise he's too strong. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, I don't know if the writers of the game want me to agree with this plan. Everyone's telling you Yugiri is really reckless, but, like, I don't know. I think she has a point. I think this ninja assassin kind of is in the right on this one. But what was cool was that the Warrior of Light basically agrees with her. Is like, yeah, I'm going to help with this. And so the Warrior of Light decides to help Yugiri with her assassination plot. And so while discussing the plan with Yugiri, Isse observes us from afar, and it looks like he's going to betray us. Like, okay, I've got to tell them. And you think to yourself, oh no, is he, like, so under the Empire's boot that he would betray us? Like, the scene was, you know, done in a really brilliant way where you think he's going to rat you out to the Empire. And I just thought that was just really, really well done. Because it's building up this tension of just, like, are they so afraid of slighting the Empire in any way where there'd be no way that the Empire would know that he heard about their plans. But they're so fearful of the Empire that they will just rat out anybody in order to make sure that they remain in the Empire's good graces. And, you know, the same way that, like, you know, in Nazi Germany, people would, you know, rat on their neighbors for suspected treason. That's just like, they're really capturing the fearful nature of authoritarianism really well. But anyway, so we try to do our sneak attack on Zenos, but does not work, and we get into another fight with the man. And we do better than last time, but still his power level is way too high. And it looks like we're about to lose the fight, when the Doman villagers show up. The villagers that we rescued, they show up with Isse, and we thought that he was going to betray us, but instead, he and the others got the will to fight, even though they know there's no chance against Zenos, which, like, the Warrior of Light can't take Zenos. These random-ass villagers are not going to be able to take Zenos. They still are willing to stand for their homeland and their people, and with their help and Alice and Yosetsu, we're able to make our escape and survive the encounter with Zenos. But yeah, that is basically all the 14 playing I got in this week, aside from my weekly playdate with Summoner Jobin, which was basically just us doing the last primal quest that we need to do for the MSQ. And because we had like just enough time to do like a tiny bit more playing after that, we unlocked Arcanist for both of us with my alt character Gred Troyan and his, only character Summoner Jobin, so we can finally eventually become a summoner in 14. And so we did like the first couple Arcanist quests, and that was basically it. That was all the playing Summoner Jobin and I did this week. We might have to skip a couple weeks. Summoner Jobin and I are playing together based upon my schedule of like packing up and moving things. So basically like it's kind of up in the air whether or not we'll be playing at all the next 2 weeks, him and I, but I'm hoping that we'll have time. So we'll just sort of have to see what happens based upon scheduling and all the stuff I have going on with the move. But yeah, so in terms of like story progress, the story didn't move too much this week, but, the stuff that did occur was really interesting, really engaging, and gave a lot of food for thought. Even though it was a sort of a slower section of Stormblood, it was still really engaging, and it's making me excited to, see what happens next. I want to keep playing. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing Alphino again, because Alice mentioned that Alphino might be able to, like, fix the Aetherite in the House of the Fierce. So it'd be convenient to have a teleport there. And nice to see Alphino in the story again, because it feels really weird not having Alphino in the story, because he has been such a staple through A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Word and through the first chunk of Stormblood. So to not have him around just feels like 14 is missing something without Alphino. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to do the liking, commenting, subscribing. Let me know what you thought about this part of Stormblood and what you thought of my thoughts. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.